Over the years, there was sporadic talk that something should be done about Africville. But by the early 60s, several official reports from City Hall recommended relocation as the only viable solution.
The folks up here have been going to the city to find out about the roads, the lights, the garbage, and what's the use? It made no difference. You see, the condition of Africville today, this should have never been. If the city had took care of this place, or, say, half out, instead of being neglecting it, it would have been a lot better than what it is today.
Africville obviously must be redeveloped, and sometimes some people need to be shown that certain things are not in their own best interests and not in the best interests of their children. Now, you do this, you want to take these projects, certainly, by persuasion to, rather, certainly you don't coerce people against their will, but should there be violations of minimum standards, then you have no alternative but to enforce the law, and this is universal for everybody.
You know, in those days, under the National Housing Act, a great deal was happening across the country in terms of removing neighborhoods that had a lot of housing that wasn't up to the minimum standards that the bylaws and so on called for. And this was part of that wave of trying to improve living conditions on the housing front.
The city wants to redevelop it over our people, and I don't think that is fair. I think we should have a chance to redevelop our property as well as anybody else. It's our property been for the last 200 years. It's one thing in this way, when you're in this country and you own a piece of property, you're not a second-class citizen. That's why my people own this land. They work for it, they toil for it, and they work to get this little piece of land that they own, and they try to hang on it. But when your land is being taken away from you and you ain't offered nothing, then you become a peasant in any man's country.
I don't think anyone should be proud of particularly, but I think that the total Halifax community was somewhat embarrassed by the degree of publicity about so-called slum as part of the city, and so some action was pushed on us by that particular feeling.
I often said to newspapers who came and said that there was a slum, I resented it, and I still resent anyone who calls Africville a slum. Slum usually are people who are renters, and a place where the homeowners won't keep the property up. But they were a proud people. They did the best they could. I remember, for instance, they saw how Africville people were on the welfare. And so I did some research with some friends of mine, and I found that there were, in proportion, there were more white people in Halifax on welfare than the people in Africville.
Africville people were people who didn't blow the top. They lived there, and unless you looked down over the hill, maybe you thought they were all in Bedford Basin, but they were still down there living, minding their own business, because we didn't need anybody else. We didn't need to go to anybody. They made their living, they worked on different companies, and they worked and paid their taxes. They can't say that the people in Africville were squatters, because the ones who paid taxes paid a whole lot of taxes for those who were squatters.
In the testing time, that is the time that we need that same God. And we feel that is coming very handy. For men is waxing worse and worse. And friends, I want to say, if every time you want to stand by your God, it's now. Together we stand, divided we fall.